Welcome to the More Than Fitness podcast.
Hello, beautiful people out there. I want to start this podcast with a smile and spread a little bit of positivity out there because I feel like the entire world, considering what's going on, and I'm not saying whether it's necessary or not, all I'm saying is that there's some real shit still going down in 2020, and it's been an interesting start these first 6 months. But yeah, I want to come on here, wish everybody well. And I saw something the other day is that the first 6 months of 2020 have obviously been chaotic and things like that. But the last 6 months will be up to us to finish strong and to triumph, I guess would be the correct term. Try to leave the year better than when it started. And given all things considered, it shouldn't be too difficult. But I think that the last 6 months will be up to us and how we handle it. And that's about all I have to say about that. All I'm saying, we need some positivity. I hope you guys come to this podcast, listen to this podcast, watch this podcast, and I bring a little bit of fucking sunshine to your day because I enjoy doing these. I hope you guys enjoy listening. And I've got some good stuff for you today. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Minisode number 42 on the More Than Fitness, blah, 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 blah. To Minisode number 42 on the More Than Fitness podcast. Why do you guys listen to this? Why do you listen to this? Minisode number 42. Today's topic is going to be how to continually make progress in the gym. Because everybody wants to continually make progress in the gym. We want to get swole. We want to see progress. We want to see our efforts come to fruition. And the first thing that I want to talk about with this is, in order to make progress, we have to first determine where the baseline is. We have to figure out, okay, what are we making progress from, right? We need the starting point of this. And I'm pretty sure the only way that you can do that is by tracking something. Of course, you can kind of close your eyes and throw darts at a dartboard and hope that you hit something and just try harder. And that's your main goal with your workout sessions and things like that, and try to will your way into making better progress. But most of the time that just ends up in you spinning your wheels because you go really hard for 2 weeks or so, then you fall off the wagon, then you're stagnant for another 2 weeks, and it's just this up and down constant battle of getting basically no results. So what I would suggest instead, track something. And that's what we'll get to in a bit. But the first principle, concept, whatever, first point I want to make is variety, and using too much variety can sometimes be the enemy of progress, right? Because if you're constantly switching things up, you don't know where that baseline is. You don't know where that starting point is. And that can be detrimental to your results. And you go by feeling. A lot of people that fall victim to this, they go by feeling. They want a new fresh workout. They want novelty. They're chasing this new stimulus. They're chasing that muscle soreness after workouts because they're doing new exercises all the time. So they're feeling really tired and sweaty and sore after workouts. And I'm not saying that those are bad things, but I'm also not saying that those are conducive to you making progress, because you can feel all of those things and not make progress. Like, any personal trainer can make their client sweat, but not every personal trainer can actually make their client see progress. There's a big difference there. But ideally, what we do is have all of those things and have an effective and efficient workout on top of it, right? Because you can have all of those things, that you just have to plan it a little bit better. But making sure that you don't use too much variety and keeping things consistent. For most, I would say, so here's what I do, and what I do with a lot of my clients, and that's, I figure out which main lifts they enjoy the most and which main lifts I enjoy the most. So like dumbbell bench press, for example, I love just regular flat dumbbell bench press. That's going to be my main lift for at least my horizontal pressing movement, or like my chest movement, basically. I'm going to keep that the same the majority of my training, honestly, at least about 8 to 12 weeks before I switch it up to something like incline bench press, or if I use a barbell instead of a dumbbell or something, right? I would say stick with the same main lift for a certain movement or muscle group. So dumbbell bench press, or barbell deadlifts, or trap bar deadlifts, or machine squats, the same machine squat over a 12-week period. The first 1 to 2 main lifts on each day, I would keep that the same. And then if you really want variety, if you really want to switch things up, then in your accessory exercises, so like if you want to do pec deck instead of dumbbell flies on chest day, right? I would keep my dumbbell bench the same the entire 12 weeks, but in the after 4 weeks of doing pec deck, I'm going to switch it up and I'm going to do cable flies instead, or I'm going to do dumbbell flies instead, right? Those little tweaks can easily keep more variety. You can switch up the rep ranges even. You can do different intensity techniques, drop sets, pause reps, rest pauses, whatever, right? There's endless variety that you can use with that. But for the most part, main lifts, your compound lifts, stick with those for long enough, and then you can switch it after 8 to 12 weeks or so minimum. Real quick, because on that, also if you're constantly changing up your main lift, so if I would do flat dumbbell bench for 4 weeks and then switch it up to like barbell incline bench, it seems like I'm getting stronger in those first 4 weeks on the, so if I do dumbbell bench first 4 weeks, and then I switch over to incline barbell bench. Well, whenever I start doing the incline barbell bench, I'm going to get stronger on incline barbell bench week to week. And it's going to feel like, okay, I'm making progress. And I am making progress, but also the majority of that progress just comes from you. It just comes from the neural adaptations of learning that skill. You basically get better at incline bench pressing. You're not actually getting stronger. You're just practicing the movement more. And that skill pattern, that movement pattern is actually being ingrained in your head, and you're becoming more efficient at the lift. So what will happen is you'll probably start making progress the first 3 weeks or so on the incline barbell bench, but then your strength is going to come to a halt, because that's whenever you're reaching your actual strength limits on that lift. But then it's going to be harder and harder and harder. But if you switch it up every 4 weeks, you're basically just improving your neural adaptations to a new lift every single 4 weeks, instead of actually getting stronger on that lift and building muscle over time. So that's the last thing I want to say about that. That's something to consider. And so with my logbook, I'm going to put a picture over here. And with my logbook, all I do, instead of like tracking every single lift that I do for the day and every single set and every single rep and the weight and everything, those main lifts that I was talking about, I just make a note of those. And so I'll put dumbbell bench press, and then I'll put 4 sets of 8 reps at 80 pounds, right? Or something like that. And then over time, I make sure that number tends to go up. And the next thing that I want to talk about, actually, I'll get to how to progress on that in just a second. But the next point is to keep your range of motion the same over time. And this is a big one, because again, going back to thinking that you're getting stronger, but you're actually just getting better at that skill of lifting on the incline barbell bench. It's not the case. The same thing happens with range of motion with people. So think about curls. I think curls is the easiest example. People are curling. So let's say you're curling 15 pounds and you're going all the way down, and then you're going all the way back up. So you're fully extending at the bottom, and then you're fully contracting all the way up. Well, whenever people want to use more weight on the bicep curl, let's say they go from 15 and then they want to jump up to 30 pounds because they're like, oh, 15 pounds is easy. I can do that full range of motion pretty easily. Then they go to 30, but then instead of going all the way down and then all the way back up, they only go about 3/4 of the way down, and then they come back up. And so what they're doing is they're not actually getting stronger on that lift. They're not actually able to curl 30 pounds from now on. They're simply just reducing their range of motion. So the weight physically travels less than it does whenever you're using 15 pounds or something. So what they should have done is maybe done 20 or 22 pounds or something like that, kept the same range of motion, and then progressed from there. And I think this is what kills people, because they think that they're getting stronger when in actuality, they're just shortening their range of motion. Their technique gets shittier. They're using more momentum momentum, and they're just not reaping the benefits like they think they are. They're feeding their ego, but they're not actually growing their muscles. So my recommendation to you is keep the range of motion the exact same every single time, especially if you're trying to grow muscle, because it doesn't matter how much really you can lift, right? What matters is that you're getting stronger on that exact same movement over time. And if you keep the range of motion a constant variable over time, then okay, if you're doing the same range of motion all the way down, all the way back up, and you do 15-pound curls for 10 reps, but then you're using the same range of motion and now you can do 15-pound curls for 13 reps, then you're actually getting stronger on that movement because everything is the same except you're able to do more reps, right? That's what I'm getting at here. So whenever you're trying to gain muscle, keeping your range of motion the same every single rep that you do is of huge importance, because if not, you're using momentum or you're getting false positives for getting stronger. That's basically how I look at it. Okay, and those are the big concepts I wanted to cover, but as far as actually progressing on those movements, so let's go back to dumbbell bench, for example. Most people think that making progress in the gym just means that you're increasing the weight, right? You're getting stronger over time because you're throwing on more pounds to the bench press, you're adding weight, etc. I think that's only one way to make progress in the gym. It is a fine way, but as far as for natural athletes who aren't using any gear, you're not going to have huge jumps in weight over time. It's just not going to happen. Especially the more intermediate to advanced you get, you're just not going to get stronger that quickly. So instead, what I would say is the first tier that I focus on and that I tell my clients to focus on is doing the same sets and reps, but you improve your technique on that lift. So if you're doing dumbbell bench press, you're using 65s for 8 reps in week 1, and then in week 2, or let's say, so in week 1, you're using 65 pounds, 8 reps, 3 sets. But on those 3 sets of 8, you're the way that you're doing the movement, it's not as fluid. You can't feel your chest as much. You're kind of you're struggling more with the weight, right? But then in week 2, I would keep that same. I would do 65 pounds for 3 sets of 8 reps, but I would make sure that whenever you're more in control than you were in week 1, you feel the mind to muscle connection better in your chest. You've got more control of the dumbbells on the way down. That is actually improvement. You're not adding weight to the bar, but it doesn't matter. You're still making improvements from the first week, and that's going to result in more muscle mass over time. Instead of just sloppily getting 3 sets of 8 and just saying, oh, I hit that benchmark, I hit 8 reps with this time, with this weight. So next week, I'm going to try and do 70 pounds for 8 reps for 3 sets. But then your form gets even sloppier, your injury risk goes even higher, you're fatiguing yourself even more. And it's not a smart way to try and progress. So I think that the first thing that you should do is try to improve your technique with that lift. And then the next thing that I would say is to build off of that is, so if I did 65 pounds dumbbell bench press, 3 sets of 8 on week 1, maybe week 2 or week 3, whenever my strength is caught up and my technique's improved a little bit, then I can do a 2 or 3 or 4 second eccentric on each rep. So whenever I'm lowering the weight down, and then I can also add a pause at the bottom. So I go slow, 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 slow on the way down, pause, and then press up, right? That is another form of progression. And again, this is a way to hone your technique better. You don't have to risk adding more weight to what you're doing, and you really master that weight that you're at, and you're also building muscle in the process with a very reduced risk of injury as well. So it's just a win all around. There's no reason that you need to just add more weight whenever it gets somewhat easy. Okay. We're coming up 14 minutes. Okay. Next up is going to be add reps. So again, same result or same example, 65 pounds, dumbbell bench press, 3 sets of 8. The next week, what I would try and do is just do 3 sets of 9, for example. That's an easy way to progress. It's nothing crazy. Or even so if I did 3 sets of 8 in week 1, I would try and do 2 sets of 8 in week 2 and then or maybe the first set would be a set of 9 reps, and then the other 2 sets are going to be sets of 8, because you're not going to get 9 reps. If you're getting 9 reps on the third set after doing 2 sets of 8, you're not using enough weight to begin with. It doesn't make sense to get more reps on your last set compared to your first set. So yes, another way to continually make progress is to add reps to the prior week. Okay, and then next after reps is going to be add a set. So instead of 3 sets of 8, you do 4 sets of 8, or you do like 4 sets of 6 or something like that to increase the volume without, so you would still use 65 pounds, but instead of doing 3 sets of 8, you would do 4 sets of 6. And that would still be an increase in volume over time, which would allow you to make progress. And then lastly, is to add weight. So instead of doing 3 sets of 8 at 65 pounds, you do you try and go for 3 sets of 8 at 70 pounds, right? And that's another way. That's perfectly fine. But again, whenever you're trying to gain muscle, it doesn't, like, getting super strong and feeding your ego isn't necessarily what's most important. It's to cause more tension on the specific target muscle that you're trying to grow. And you can easily do that in multiple ways, like I just mentioned, without just throwing weight on the bar, using more momentum, and just increasing your risk of getting hurt. So let me recap real quick. Improve your technique is going to be the first one. The second one is going to be to slow the eccentric, slow the lowering phase of the lift and add a pause. The next one is going to be add reps to every single week. The next one is going to be add sets each week. And the last one is going to be add weight. By using all of those and preferably in that order, that's going to allow you to continually make progress in the gym. And the big concepts I mentioned in the beginning was don't use too much variety week to week, month to month. Make sure you track something in your logbook over time, and also keep your range of motion the exact same over time so that you know you're actually progressing, because that variable is constant. Okay, and that is it for Minisode number 42 on the More Than Fitness podcast. Thank you as always for listening and for watching. See ya.